Anthony Testino, contributor for Eric Smith over on YouTube. All right. Well, for once, I'm actually recording this during the daytime, as you can kind of see outside. It's Monday, about noonish or so, and I'm usually recording at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and or like 7 o'clock in the morning after working, my overnight shift and tired. So I got a little more pep in my step today, which is nice. And I did the film today in a little bit different of a fashion than I normally do. I still spent time with a couple plays and looked at them by themselves and with the focus usually on one of the younger players that we need to be paying attention to, going forward, because they are going to be building blocks for the next set of Miami Dolphins that really, that hopefully are like the inaugural class to getting this thing turned around. And, looking back and saying 2025 draft class were the guys that, you know, um, started to set the tone of what's, and became the leaders for, the Dolphins 20, 30-year run of consistent success. I mean, that's what we're all hoping for, right? So that's, those are the guys, again, who I'm going to continue to look at and pay attention to. And, in the video, I go in the breakdown and the tape, I, kind of spend some time talking about where they started, where they're at now, and potentially maybe where they're going to be and what things may look like going forward. Um, Talk about some of the other trade targets and the fact that we are all right now sitting on the edge of our seat, kind of waiting for the next phone buzz and an Adam Schefter notification that says Dolphins trade, that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you guys, and all I can do is kind of cross my fingers that they continue to make good decisions and do things as smart as possible, considering we are in a very interesting situation where we have an interim GM and we're all happy about not having the GM anymore that we have had for the last, you know, 25 years, and guy's been in control for the last decade, right? So it's like, but okay, is he going to be the guy going forward, or is he just placeholding for the next 3 months, we have a head coach who's been given the rest of the year, but is he going to come back or not? Because that door, surprisingly, is still open because he's connected to the quarterback who is more likely than not going to be here based on his contract. It is possible to move on, especially if things really unravel, but there's a lot of connecting the dots and a lot of intertwined and roads crisscrossing. It's quite honestly a mess right now. So yeah, there's a lot up in the air, and it's really interesting and curious to see what kind of decisions they're willing to make before things even get settled down and in place, right? So the Jaelen Phillips trade just happened a few hours ago, and Miami now sits with, I think, either 5 or 6 picks in like the top 105, and have 3 third-round picks, and that's a good thing. I mean, that's exciting, but we need to make them count, and if we want to get this thing turned around and turned around fast, and and set the tone for how we want to do things going forward. So yeah, check into the video, and feel free to leave your thoughts, comments, concerns, anything like that. Um, Draft wise, like, I'm in the mode too, where I'm gonna kind of just start even here and there, taking a look at some of the prospects at positions that I think Miami would be smart to address. So if you have anybody, anything, like, I'm all ears and willing to interact, listen. So yeah, I had a great interaction with somebody late last week where they were giving me some GMs to interviews to listen to, and I've already listened to a couple with Hallaby from Alec Hallaby from Philadelphia, who's a impressive dude, and you can hear kind of some of what his process is, how he looks at things, and yeah, it's good stuff. It's fun. It kind of familiarizes you with what some of the options may be for the Dolphins, and that's exactly where we're at, is in evaluating. It's evaluating GM, it's evaluating options at head coach, it's evaluating other options at GM, not just the guy that's in place. It's evaluating players and who's going to be here going forward. It's evaluating the entire landscape of the NFL and what we think, the direction this thing is going. So how do we build a team going forward? And are the people in place, up to speed with that idea? Or is it going to be, more of, well, I have this offense and I'm going to force feed it down everyone's throat, and okay, well, it's not working, and now I'm going to start pointing the finger at guys because they can't do it anymore, not because people have figured it out and I don't know how to figure out how to beat too high or people jam packing the middle of the defense, so it's just weird times to be a Dolphin fan, but I get into some of that, like I said, and again, feel free to reach out and let's talk some more ball. So, all right, appreciate you guys checking it out. All right, guys. So the first one I want to take a look at here, you can see the bottom description here. We're second quarter, about 10 minutes left. This is a 14-yard run by Derrick Henry. It's going to hit right in here with some, you get a pulling guard that comes over and kicks out the end and likely comes up here, gets a second level. But what I want to focus on is exactly what we've been talking about over the last couple weeks, right? Is the focus is going to be on these young guys, and it's going to be under a microscope now. It's not kind of how is the whole team look, how are they doing as a unit. It's really like that part of like the analysis and tape watching is kind of over, because we have no idea what to expect as far as who's going to be back. I mean, there's already one guy right here. He won't be back, not unless something crazy happens where, he doesn't re-sign with Philly and loves Miami so much that he comes back and signs a team-friendly deal because of the prior injury history, lower sack numbers, and understands that Miami is not really in a position where we're going to go and chase $100 million a year, $100 million contracts for pass rushers, because, maybe we're not quite there yet, right? Like if they decide to build this thing through the draft and take their time with it, I don't know how many of those big contracts are going to be handed out, right? So again, we're focusing on individuals, and, I know it's funny to kind of, focus on a play where it's a 14-yard run right up the middle. Like in no situation is that a good thing or excusable for a defense. But when you look at Kenneth Grant, the difference between what it was in the first, especially the first month, to what it looks like now, it's so night and day. I'm very excited for Kenneth Grant's future. Like, I think I was a little discouraged, and I don't want to say worried, because I do know that, guys need time to develop and not everyone does it at the same pace. But with that said, I kind of took Chris Greer's words, and I guess I probably just like subconsciously trusted him more than I should have, like on the surface, where, he's saying we're going to take guys that need to be ready to play and contribute, and also, play a lot of snaps, and we're going to try to win, right? So then your brain says anybody that's taken, you're really hoping can be, useful and be ready to go and NFL ready fairly quickly. And, it kind of wasn't the case, considering it's taken like half the season for these young guys, these rooks, to really start to kind of settle in. But at the same time, like, if Kenneth Grant is the kind of guy that's going to give us 12, 15 years, like, hopefully we keep him in-house, and that's something new that happens in Dolphins land, right? Is we actually start to take care of our own and take care of them early and recognize the talent and not wait for them to get to free agency and try to, have to pay $140 million when, if we signed them a year and a half, 2 years ago, it would have been taken care of. But I'm hoping that that's the case with Kenneth Grant, and like I said here, what I wanted to do was really just highlight the difference in what his losses looked like compared to what the losses look like now, right? So again, 14-yard run, not a good thing. Okay, I'm not oblivious or naive to that, right? And I'm not trying to sell you on like, something ridiculous here. what I'm saying is that if you go back and you watch the tape, and I can go back and show, like, maybe at the end of the year I'll do something where, I look at some of the early reps and look and see and show you some of the really bad stuff, and then we watch the progression as it goes throughout the year. But what I saw was bad. I mean, this would be a play where Kenneth Grant would get hit at the line of scrimmage here, and he would get worked back, into, Dodson's lap, or he'd get pushed and he'd be back here. And I'm not kidding about that. He'd be 8, 10 yards off the ball sometimes, like when the whistle, at the whistle at the end of the play. And now, you look at this and it's totally different, right? So you get a double team in the pulling guard here. The guard's going to come and kick out Phillips. Likely he's going to come up here and get to the second level and take care of Brooks. He's going to create like a two-way alley here, basically, for Henry, and just say, okay, make me right. Like, choose whichever way you want to go, just make me right as the blocker. And then you get, so then you're going to get Henry hitting it, through here. But again, watch Kenneth Grant, right? Like, this is a double team, and here the right tackle, like Rosengarten, he's going to work up, and he's actually going to seal Dodson as well. So again, from Baltimore's perspective, this ends up being a great play. This ends up being perfectly blocked, very well done, exactly what you want to do. Mission accomplished for Baltimore. Okay, again, I understand that. But what I'm trying to drill home is just watch Kenneth Grant and the difference. If you have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, I suggest you maybe try to go find it, or like I said, maybe it's something that I can do and try to shed more light on. But here, right, like, again, he would be gone. Like, I mean, absolutely just deleted from this play earlier in the year. And over the last few weeks, we've seen major growth, much more, much better play as far as, pad leverage, strength, just flashes, playmaking. Like, he is definitely getting it. So there, right? Okay, here. Now, again, this ends up being well blocked, but watch Grant as he finds a way to fight back after the double team and get this guy off balance, and he almost makes this play. And to be honest with you, I really think he was held. And this looks like one of those that I understand how a ref maybe doesn't catch it, and he gets away, and this dude gets away with it. But just a step slow on bringing Henry down for what would have been, he falls forward for, a 5-yard gain, a 6-yard gain, 4-yard gain, whatever it may have been, instead of being 14 and hitting the third level. Again, just the difference of what it is now and what the losses look like now is totally different than what it was earlier in the year. It's just like being a golfer, right? Like, when you're starting out as a golfer and you're, say you have your par threes, right? Or you want to attack the green. For anybody that plays golf, you understand what I'm talking about. In the beginning, right, your misses can be all over the place. You might pull it, you might hook it, you might scull it. I mean, there is just like an infinite amount of places that this ball could end up. But when you start to get good at golf and you start to try to dial things into the green and attack, and you start to become smarter, your misses still leave you in a position to set yourself up for an okay next shot, right? Like, you're not so much out in, a different zip code, and just trying anything and everything to get on the green. Okay, you didn't hit your best shot, so you're not sticking it to the pin inside 20 feet, but okay, so you're just off the right-hand side of the fringe, and now you can just chip up and hopefully, and one putt, two putt, right? So for anybody that plays golf will understand that reference. That's kind of where Kenneth Grant is at, is the misses are becoming much better. And it's exciting. Like, we have to figure out, if these are the kind of guys that are going to be key cogs in this whole thing going forward, or are they just guys? And again, where Kenneth Grant was through the first 6 weeks to where he's been the last 3 weeks, I'm going to put my money on the fact that Kenneth Grant is who exactly I thought he was, which I understand when Tyler Warren is right there. And I'm not saying Tyler Warren's going to fall off or anything like that, because he probably is going to have a fantastic career. But I really think Kenneth Grant is gonna make you feel a lot better about that the longer he's on this team, where, you know what, you can kind of finally say, it would have been nice to have Tyler Warren, would have been fun, but I'll tell you what, Kenneth Grant's a damn good player too, and I'm glad we took him. So, yeah, just again highlighting some differences from and the growth basically from Grant here, right? So we'll keep it rolling, but was just something that caught my eye, and I really wanted to take the time to explain so you understand. Okay, moving on. All right, another one. Just want to take a look at real quick, kind of the same um, idea as to Jordan Phillips and his like progression. Um, the interesting thing about Jordan, and I feel like this happens all the time in the NFL when teams double down on players, is like the guy that's always drafted like four rounds later than your first or second round pick, like is always, I don't want to say always, but again, it happens quite a bit. They end up being ahead of like your first round talent, and I just think it's like, I don't know. It's ironic. It's interesting. It's funny. I don't know what it is. If it's just pure coincidence or what. Um, but Jordan's a guy that pretty much came in and has been pretty damn steady. Like, I don't think he's made the progress that Kenneth Grant has made, but he started out ahead of Kenneth Grant because he does play with good technique and he's got some serious strength, man. If he gets his hands on you and gets underneath your pads, like he's gonna win. Like he's got brute strength, and he holds up very very well at the point of attack. And I just kind of wanted to show off a little bit of that. So again, like, I don't think he's made the progress from like start like point A to point B like Kenneth Grant has, but he's been steady because he's kind of done this kind of thing all year. He just needs to make more plays and just continue to improve at the things he does well and make them great. So, gonna show this one here, which again, this only ends up being a 2-yard run, but watch him right here. Gets his hands on, gets him kind of extended. Look at this. He is down on one knee, right? And now, because he drove him back, now don't get me wrong, he drove the guard back, right? So now that kind of eliminates a little bit of what Baltimore can do as far as running, because now your lead blocker, who Henry's going to follow, your lead blocker is like this. His pathway here is cut off, so he's forced to work back inside, which kind of forces Henry to work back inside. It seems like, right? Where maybe if that wasn't here and it was blocked well, they would have been stringing this out and then either maybe hitting it over here, or maybe Henry sticks his foot in the ground and turns it up. But it just seems like, again, with him being walked back and Phillips creating some displacement and getting some penetration, it kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in where they wanted to hit this run. But again, what I really wanted to focus on was like he still has his hands attached with a knee on the ground here, right? Like, in what position do you think, like, have you ever seen an offensive lineman then lose this rep in while he's got a guy like this? Watch the way this finishes. Come on, man. That's crazy strength and athletic ability. That's crazy. Obviously he didn't like just make a solo tackle there. But again, what he does here and where he ends up and where, him and he takes this guard, it forces the run to do something else and cut back inside and eliminates a few options there. And then to be one knee on the ground, still be engaged, not give up, and more than anything, not lose, is absolutely wild to me. Again, another dude that you should be very excited for, because I promise this is the kind of dude that is going to be in probably the NFL for like 20 years. Like, these guys, just because of their technique and because of their strength, like he's going to be one of those guys that's like just going to get old and still be strong as an ox, and just he's just going to continuously find himself in on an NFL roster. And whether it's rotational or if it's, I don't know if he'll ever develop any star power, but every team needs guys like that. And Miami got themselves a good one. So, yeah, just another guy that, again, can be very excited for the future, whether it's short term or long term. Jordan Phillips he's going to be a good one. All right, next one I want to take a quick look at and kind of have a different approach to what I want to focus on here. So you can see in the bottom, we're third quarter now, and it's, a couple plays into the second half, and this is a 10-yard catch. If you've watched the videos or have watched, obviously, the season and kind of know what you're looking for and, whatnot, the linebacker play, aside from Jordan Brooks, really has not been very good. I liked Tyrel Dodson, last year when they brought him in. I thought he made some plays, and then you kind of look at his history, like with Buffalo, and he seems like he's the kind of guy that, the football tends to find. And that was exciting because for the longest time, I felt like Miami really didn't get anything out of their linebackers. I just felt like that's been a position that's been the absolute definition of average for a long time. And, Jerome Baker, when they're going back to like spending big money on Donnell Ellerbe and Philip Wheeler, and bringing in like younger, like young, like rookies, like later picks, like Jelani Jenkins, who I actually ended up liking, but you have like guys like Neville Hewitt, who I think was a UDFA, like Jordan Tripp. Like throughout the years, it's been pretty bad. I think Kiko Alonso was probably the only guy that I could point to and say like, he actually made some plays on the football, and I really appreciated it. And now, it's kind of back to the same. Like I absolutely love Jordan Brooks, and I think he does have the ability to make those kinds of plays. I just think that, the defense needs to be set up right, and I think, we need better players and he needs more help around him in order for those things to happen. But and maybe that's the case for Dodson too. I'm sure it's the case for all players, right? The better situation, the better you would think, the better play you get out of guys that are capable of doing so. But Dodson for me has been a dude, all year long that has really been just out of position and a cause for concern, and I have to double check his contract, but I know it's nothing crazy. I'm sure realistically, if they wanted to, they could get out of it. I would say after this year. If that's not the case, I'd be surprised, and I would probably guarantee at that point. Then I think he only signed a 2-year deal anyway, so he'd be done after next year. But again, he kind of been somebody that's, in my eyes, has been, the culprit for a lot of big plays and some of the opposing offense's success. So here, again, I want to just show this. This is a super simple, like there's a swing over here, right? And Lamar, I don't even think he looks at it. And then these guys here do nothing but run a double slant concept. That's it. He's going to go here and try to get inside, and he's going to go here and try to get inside. And all Lamar does is basically, as long as he's got the protection, is stand there and try to pick a window and figure out, which one he's going to hit one of these two guys in. And, Dodson here, you have 1, 2, and 3, and you have 3 now over here, and you have 1 and 2, and you have 2 guys here. So he's literally sitting middle here with protecting in here, and, I would say probably watching Lamar as well. And I understand he needs eyes on him because Lamar can take off and go and do some phenomenal things in a blink of an eye. But once he settles down and realizes, okay, like this is a pass set, He's in position where he is going to throw from the pocket, right? Not that he can't run, but like that's what it looks like. That's how Dodson should be playing. And the eyes are here, and it's bouncing around, and he's just sitting in the middle. And there was never a check to see, what's going on over here, and what the concepts are. And I'm just so tired of it personally. As a linebacker, and realistically, like when you talk about any position, when you're in zone, you need to learn how to read the routes when you're out on the field. Like for instance, if I'm an inside backer, and I got a guy in the slot, right? Say it's a 2x2 set, and I am apexed, which means I'm in between, the tackle and the slot receiver, and my slot receiver runs an out route. My brain should automatically be telling me most likely the scenario is that guy from the outside is either going to run deep or he's going to run an inside breaking route. So I need to be prepared for that and be looking for that. And if I may be in position to make a play, or he's going to run far enough away where I don't have to worry about it, and I can help elsewhere. But the bottom line is like there's never any checks for these things. Nobody ever recognizes what the route concepts are and steps in front of anything. You're not going to do anything sitting here and just staring at Lamar Jackson when he's going to pass. So if you watch, he's literally, he basically makes the decision for Lamar here, because he's going to here, and then he jumps out, and then look, he literally created a bigger window for Lamar. That is so easy in pitch and catch for an NFL quarterback, especially one the caliber of Lamar Jackson. And like I said, it's just I'm really tired of it. We need better linebacker play. Look at his helmet stripe. He never does anything else but stare at Lamar. If he had just taken a peek and seen that there was inside routes that were, inside breaking routes coming his way, he would have been able to just peek to his right, see it, and then start to move left and carry it until basically it got to the point where it became somebody else's responsibility. And that's how you play zone defense. So again, for me, like going forward, Miami needs to find somebody in the middle here, so that way Jordan Brooks can play the will, which is where I believe he really wants to play, and let him just run around and do what he does. But Miami needs to find a true middle linebacker that knows how to command the defense and take these kinds of things away and say, no, like I own the middle of the field, and basically be able to play the chess match like a Matt Milano does, for Buffalo, or like Fred Warner does. And again, of course, easier said than done to find those guys. But that's another position, much like the tight end, that I'm glad that they did put some resources into it this year, and lately with Jordan Brooks and Tyrel Dodson, and they finally, decided to move on from Jerome Baker and those guys there. And the fact that they went and got Willie Gay, who I'm done saying it, but it's going to annoy me forever, and it will be the year of no Willie Gay, apparently. And KJ Britt, so it's like they did throw resources at it, but again, like it's all kind of proving to be just more throw stuff at the wall, right, and see what sticks sort of deal. And right now, not a whole lot is sticking outside of what we already knew with Jordan Brooks. They just this is my plea. Find me a middle linebacker that controls the defense like a quarterback and can think like a quarterback and understands how to play coverage, because it can change a lot for you. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that here and say, again, as we're going forward, I'm going to point out some things that I really want to change, and some positions that need more. They need somebody that's ready to step in and, again, be a difference maker. Right now, currently, the way this roster is constructed, there's not enough of those guys. And obviously, we're in a position where we're going to actually start to trade some of them away. But I believe in being strong down the middle. So that was part of also the reason why I wanted Kenneth Grant, because I believe if you have a strong nose tackle, strong D tackles, depending whatever your defensive front is, if you have strong middle linebackers or a strong middle linebacker, strong inside linebackers, and then strong at safety, I believe that can be very helpful when it comes to the defense's success. So, yeah, going forward, get me somebody that is ready to step up and be the next like face of this Dolphins defense, please. And this next clip is going to piggyback on just what I had said in the previous clip. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, really very, very little. But again, let's just watch here. You get a play fake, and it's Derrick Henry, and I understand that that needs to be priority one, right? He's gonna push vertical, break across the middle here, and he's gonna get right in between these two inside hook zones, and that's gonna be an easy catch, run 15 yards. Again, you tell me if this is good linebacker play and good effort. I need more. I need more. And I know, maybe we're at the point like Willie Gay admitting, hey, I kind of, packed it in after a certain point because we were bad, the way I was being used, that kind of thing, and I learned from it, right? I understand this year has been very frustrating for everybody. And as frustrated as we are as fans, believe it or not, yes, the players do care. I will say there's probably some, yes, of course, there are guys that are just really happy with a paycheck. Don't get me wrong. I don't know who they are. I'm not going to pretend to know and point them out. But, there are definitely guys too that care 10 times as much as we do. And those guys, I think you can tell who they are. So I know that frustration has built. And maybe it becomes really hard to play 100% or whatever it is. I don't want to make excuses because personally I played, and you would have to, I don't care what the score is, I play until the final whistle, and as long as I can do the math and figure out a way to win the game, I play like it's not over. So that's been my mindset. It's always been my mindset. Um, but yeah, again, you see that, and for me, it's just not enough. I need better. I need a linebacker who is going to drag people across the finish line when they don't want to play anymore or are not performing or are tired or whatever the case is. I need somebody who is literally going to just grab them and say, no, no, we're going to continue to play here, and we are going to continue to play at a high level with very, very, very high effort. So, yeah, again, highlighting that. I need better middle linebacker, inside linebacker will be a position that I am going to spend some serious time watching and paying attention to when it comes to the NFL draft. Now that the Dolphins have, I believe, they're at either 5 or 6 picks in the top 100, so or top 105. So yeah, again, if they pick the right guys, this thing can get turned around fairly quickly if they do it right, but then also take their time. So yeah, that's a position for me that is going to be a focal point going forward. If you guys know anybody draft wise or whatever to watch, I will admit during the season I am not the biggest college football watcher, but I really enjoy the draft stuff and trying to get my hands on like tape and finding whatever I can find on YouTube and reading and all that stuff. There are certain positions I scout. I tend to scout very well, and others I could definitely use some pointers on or whatnot, or maybe point me in the direction of prospects. So if anybody knows any, by all means, share it in the comments. Let me know, and yeah, I'll take a look. So Yeah, that's enough of Tyrel Dodson though for me. Moving on. All right, so gonna take a look at this here, and this is plays a negative, um, but this is so. Let me start here. Early in the year, you could tell, right? And I've mentioned this before that this team definitely had some sort of little um, like love connection with Dante Trader. You could just tell the way they were doing things as far as like the defense and how often he was getting reps early, and the fact that it seemed like they kind of wanted to hide him in the preseason. And I don't know. There was just like the writing was on the wall. If you kind of connected the dots and were paying attention, that you could tell like these guys really liked Dante Trader very early. Like again, as soon as he walked in the building, they liked him a lot and envisioned him having a specific role and getting reps early. And again, we've throughout the year we've seen him used differently. Like I've seen him matched up one on one in man coverage with tight ends. We've seen him play the box. We've seen him in high safety, split field, single high, more traditional roles, right? Against Atlanta, he had kind of had like his kind of coming out game, if you ask me, where he was involved in quite a bit of plays and played very well. And I think he had like I don't know, like 11 tackles or something like that. So um, it's either that or he did that again. That might have actually been this game, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, so again, like, and I like him too. There's definitely talent there, but you have to use him the correct way. And I don't know if this is because it's, we're getting numbers are dwindling and, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here as far as like who's available. And, you kind of just have to plug guys in and play. And sometimes maybe it's not the best situation. But you have to just kind of roll with it because that's what we have and that's where we are right now. But in this situation, you end up getting man coverage. He's here in the slot against Zay Flowers, and this is lights out. He's already lost this rep just by being matched up on somebody with the quickness of Zay. Zay is lightning in a bottle for one, and Schrader's speed is a little bit more of quick bursts in one direction. And then if he's got to do more than that, he can be kind of limited or slow down, be a little bit slower in and out of breaks and movement and change of direction stuff, which is where other players, if they get matched up on him in those situations, that's where they'll create their separation and you get big plays like that. So he's a guy, though, that I think if you play him in the right role, I think he can be a damn good football player. I think if you're going to play him in a traditional high role, I'm not sure how many times you're going to see him, get to a spot with speed or break on a ball. But I think from what we've seen so far is he does seem to be a fairly high IQ player or higher IQ player for being a young guy. And also, I mean, I think it speaks volumes the fact that they trust him this much to kind of be like he was definitely penciled in or thought of as a starter or again like an extension of the starters very early on. Guys that are not high IQ or higher IQ do not get that kind of love from the coaches. So, yeah, he's a guy that I like, and I think if you're going to play him in a high safety role, sometimes that's fine. But I think that's about as far as like the range goes when it comes to what you can do with him, and when in a role, how much do you trust him to be turning and running, or having to reach spots, right? Like this is a situation, and this is a situation that we don't want him in, and he should never be in. He should be back here at this point, playing here, and Minka should be here, if anything. But again, he is a guy that I do like going forward. He reminds me, quite honestly, quite a lot like of Brandon Jones, who I really liked. But when you get down to it and you start designing this defense, whoever it may be next year, whatever the situation is. He needs to be in here, playing in the middle and playing around here and playing in hook zones and blitzing and doing those kinds of things and helping out with the run. And then occasionally, yes, you can move him back here and let him do some stuff up top where he's got some protection underneath. And if he's, if he's a tape guy and a tape, um, prepares very well and all that stuff, his speed and range don't necessarily need to be A plus plus. They can be B plus, B, and let the IQ and the tape and the prep and all that kind of stuff, let that take you to an A, and that way you know what's coming before it happens, and then you can anticipate those things and be in the right spot. So just wanted to highlight, what kind of player Trader is, because, you see a play like this, right? And you're kind of like, ugh, man, but it's like, listen, not every guy is meant to be matched up with Zay Flowers in the slot and then try to cover him man to man on an out and up. It's not meant for everybody. And it's definitely not meant for Dante Trader, but it doesn't mean he's a bad player. It doesn't mean he's, regressing. These are just positions that, okay, like he should not find himself in very often. That would be a mismatch for the offense. And it was. And that's why I don't think Lamar even hesitated. I think he knew where he was going with that football before he even before he even got into his cadence. So, yeah, just wanted to elaborate, on like what Dante Trader is and what he may be going forward and how he can be used and how he shouldn't be used. But I do think he's another guy that, even if I'm showing you a negative play, if he's used correctly and you get somebody that knows this and knows how to use him, I do think you'll appreciate him. And I think, and I do think he can absolutely be a Brandon Jones type of player. So, yeah, going forward, again, I've said it before, where we're at and where our eyes are and our evaluation. When you look at Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips and Dante Trader, again, I think there's enough. I think there's enough there to be excited about. I'm happy Chris Greer is gone, just like everybody else. It's much deserved, long overdue. But I will tip my cap and say that I do like the rookies he chose. I wish they had stepped up and played a little bit, better, faster, so that way we didn't just lose the season within, before the end of October. But I will give credit and say I do like this class so far. Much to be seen, how far, how good, how far they can go, how good they can be, how much they can develop. But I do like this class, and I do think that these can be some guys that really stick around and make an impact in turning the Dolphins around and hopefully into a consistent winner under new management and leadership. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here, and I kind of flipped, and I'm not even really going to dissect this play. Was just a fun one to kind of go and see, even though it's not really fun considering that it was taken off the board for an egregious bad call by a ref that ruined all momentum and quite frankly was ridiculous. And then you get the image of Eric Studsville getting into it with Ollie Gordon, and the whole thing just, and then Ollie Gordon blowing up. Yes, so the whole thing just makes you shake your head, but yeah, the reason why I kind of chose this is because this guy here, I don't want him being traded. And I am actually, for the first time in a while, recording during the daytime, which is why I may sound like I got a little more pep in my step than usual, because I am usually doing it either at like 3 or 4 in the morning or 7 in the morning after I've worked, all night long and been awake. So, yeah, so I'm recording this Monday about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And, Phillips just got traded a couple hours ago, and obviously kind of sitting on your, the edge of the seat and wondering who's next and what else is coming. But, I am not going to come off the stance that Jaelen Waddle should be a Miami Dolphin until he retires. And I think Devon Achane is another one that should not go anywhere. And, guys like that are definitely character wise and skill level wise and scheme wise. They can fit into just about anything that you want to do going forward. So unless you get blown away with an offer, they better be in Miami in 2026. Um, so yeah, again, I'm in the same boat as the rest of you guys. I personally don't have any inside information. I can only look at things and try to, hope for the best, and have my opinions about what I want to happen and what I think should happen, and try to put, my fan hat away and bias away and look at things objectively. And I think I can do a pretty good job of that. Um, but with that said, like again, whether it's the hat, my fan hat is on or it's off, I still believe that Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane should be here unless you get what is being rumored for Jalen Waddle, which is more than a first round pick. And for Devon Achane, I would say, I know he's a running back, but he's a weapon, and he can be used in multiple different ways. I don't need to get into who he is and what he can do. He's another one, like you want him. I want a second round pick. And if you think that's high, cool. That's what I want. I want you to think that's high. I want you to be discouraged, and I want you to go away and go find somebody else, because I don't want to give him up. So, yeah, going forward, I think when you look at, like I said, Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips and, Dante Schrader, I think, Jordan Brooks has really developed himself as a leader, and I really hope he's here and continues to be one of the guys that can be counted on. I think he needs a better running mate next to him that can really be a true, leader Mike linebacker, and let Jordan kind of be like the Robin in that, area. I'm going to be curious to see what happens in the secondary, if Minka is still here or not, or if that's something, that's just too much frustration and it all boils over and it's time for him to go and he's out the door again. And then getting back to, Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane, and some of the younger guys that are on that side, like Patrick Paul and Jonah and, Aaron Brewer, being who he is and what he's kind of become. He's not maybe necessarily a fit for every offensive scheme, so we'll have to see again, what happens going forward. But there's some talent on this roster, and there's definitely some guys that, you should be excited for going forward. And I think they're the right kind of guys that if they're in the right role and they're in the right spot when it comes to the totem pole, they can they can be part of turning this whole thing around. So, yeah, just wanted to shed some light on some of that. I did a little bit more talking today than showing tape, because when it boils down to it, it's kind of like, if Miami's going to make everyone available and we have a whole nother like 28 hours or so before we know who's even going to finish the season as a Miami Dolphin, I really just wanted to kind of spend some time showing a couple things and talking about where they started, where they are now, and where they're going. As far as, who's a little bit more of a guarantee, not necessarily a guarantee, but a little bit more likely that they are on the roster going forward. So, yeah, that's where we're at, guys. It stinks. Trust me. I hear you guys, and I feel it too. I really hope whatever they decide to do, I hope it's just good decisions going forward. I hope they take their time and they do, a good job and do their due diligence and go through their process. And I hope it all finally just leads to a solid decision and they make it and get it done and get the guy that they want. And I really hope it's somebody that the consensus would agree with and say that that's a well-respected, good hire. And I hope the trickle-down effect off of that is something that has a lasting and just, franchise organization changing, effect on everything and everyone. Because at this point, that's really where we're at. I look at Detroit Lions and say, Dan Campbell walked in the door there, and it's not to say that Dan Campbell has done this whole thing alone, but he might be and probably is the guy that said, I'm going to change things. Everybody follow suit and let's go to work. And look at him now. I think if the Detroit Lions in their history, if they can get it done and figure it out, then there is no reason that the Miami Dolphins cannot either, that they can't too. So that's what I'm going to hold out for and continue to, prepare myself and do my research and all that, and hope for the best, guys. So yeah, feel free to reach out in the comments and talk a little bit about some of the stuff, whether it's this year, next year, what's going on with the future. And yeah, like I said, let's all just keep our fingers crossed, and yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, thanks for checking in, and I'll catch you guys later.
They got a big run right here by H.M. Breaking tackles, downfield he goes.
Not a successful area for them.
3rd and 2 out of the backfield. It's Hill. Oh, he got by 1. 3rd down 8. Going deep, and he has the completion. Into 6 defensive backs. He'll swing one to the 10. It's Hill holding on.